My name is none other than Richard Liu, if you haven't caught that. And yes, I am really, really interested in philosophy. And before you ask, people do ask me stupid questions like, man, why is blue the color blue? Basically, why does color refer to the color that they are? And I do have an answer for that. So let's think. There's concepts, which is the word blue, and there are properties, which is the actual color blue. And when I speak the word blue, I'm using the concept of blue to refer to the property of blue. And you, the recipient of the concept of blue, will automatically draw an imagination. So you would imagine blue, like how when I say high school student that nags all around him about philosophy, you automatically make that connection to, a dork. But just like that, when I say blue, you make the connection blue to the actual color blue. And that's how language works. It's like a elaborate game of Pictionary. But yeah, I'm not here to talk abstract philosophy like the metaphysics of roses. No, I'm here to do something much more important. I'm here to make some money. Yeah, I love getting rich. And to get rich, I have a business proposition for y'all. So hear me out this one. We all know that there's things called stocks, right? But stocks is for old people. We hip youngsters, we got something new. We got cryptocurrency, which is essentially stocks, but with coins. And these virtual technological coins are very volatile. You know, goes up and down willy-nilly and just does whatever they want. And their appraisal is less based on companies, but more concepts. So that is very central to our business plan here, so please remember that. So step one for my business plan is to get investors. But who is the better investor than you guys? So step one is get money from y'all. Lots of money, and lots of money from lots of y'all. And step two is to invest these money into cheap crypto coins, the type that cost $1 or $2, not Bitcoin that costs tens and thousands of dollars. Because these crypto coins are very, very cheap and very, very volatile to market prices, following the basic principle of demand and supply, their prices will go up. And since the prices go up, we are technically inflating their prices. And because we bought them with low prices and they rise to high prices, we can just sell them to get them money. Because, they're very cheap and they're probably going to inflate only $1 or $2, but we bought them in bulk, remember? And if we bought them in bulk, we do this ancient Chinese proverb of collecting small droplets to form a big pond. And since we bought them in bulk, oh boy, we're forming a big pond. Everyone's getting rich, right? Let's consider it. Let's see what your reaction is. Oh, the gentleman in the front is holding his lips. He's having some reservations. The young student is actually considering it. This might be her chance to get a new iPhone. Let's see, some people are thinking about it. Some reservations from the gentleman in the second row. And you will be right to hold your reservations because this is not how we earn money. In fact, it's a scam. Professionally, it's called a pump and dump scam. That there's no guarantee that I'm going to give your money back after I get them. It's like a false promise. But beyond that, the most important thing is it's illegal operations. That's technically illegal. We cannot inflate prices by injecting a lot of money in the crypto market. I get arrested for that, and all your money goes to waste. And that, it's a scam, right? But most of y'all identified it, right? And people dodge scams left, right, and center. So that's not really what interests me here. What really interests me here is how you guys identified it's a scam. Why did you guys hold reservations? And that's a question answered by critical thinking. As defined by the famous American philosopher John Dewey, one of the founders of pragmatism, critical thinking calls for a persistent effort to examine any belief or supposed form of knowledge in the light of the evidence that supports it and further conclusions to which it tends. A basic translation would be critical thinking is to use evidences and knowledge you already have or a thinking pattern that you already hold to examine information given to you, to see if it's accurate, if it's credible, or if it's biased, which means if it has a strong intention or agenda it pushes. So that's critical thinking. And I would say it's beyond the importance of identifying business scams. I'd say it's also the guarantee, the essence of staying as an individual, and the essence to keep a community function and well-oiled. So let's get on with example. Right? Imagine if I stand here and I tell a hypothetical guy that cows can fly. And a hypothetical guy does not have critical thinking. So his response, instead of, nah, Richard, that's ridiculous, it's going to be, oh, I bet they do. So that's the guy that's here, a guy lacking critical thinking. And because he lacks critical thinking, he does not reject information. All he does is a gluttonous amalgamation of the stuff he takes in. So what happens to him? Well, in essence, he's just this collage of information. There's nothing new or individual about him. He is whatever you shape him to be. Because individuality calls for agency. It calls for to think for oneself and to do for oneself. And this guy evidently does not do. And imagine we have a load of these guys in the community. Soon enough, we'll have people flying on airplanes trying to parachute down with forks and knives to catch some cows, because cows can fly. So we see that it's really detrimental to a community that have individuals that does not have critical thinking. But I believe all of us here does have critical thinking, as you perfectly, absolutely, immaculately exercised your critical thinking to examine, to identify my scam. Well, to say so, that brings us to our next business proposition. But this time, I'm going to make it good, you know? I'm going to make it beneficial for all of us. So to start with, that I'm going to make this one cost-free. Yes, I'm designing a mining software. Instead, not like Bitcoin mining software, which requires supercomputers. It's on your phone. With a single tap of your hand on your phone, you can start mining. And then, because it's on the phone, it's a simplified blockchain. So it's for millions of mobile users. And because it's for millions of mobile users, we can actually achieve the same amount of computational power as if people mining Bitcoins. So it actually has practical applications. So for example, if you want to decode some data, you can go to us. And to keep decentralized ledgers, which is an essential aspect of any blockchain, it also works. And because of this, we can get profits from transactions and fees and enterprise deals. Why? Because it's such a disruptive technology with strong growth potential, its value is going to go up, skyrocket. And because you guys invested nothing by simply downloading an app and tapping, that's all the cost you're putting in. 2 minutes of your life every day maximum. And because of this, your profits will soar. That's if we succeed. Even if we don't, what'd you lose? 2 minutes of your life doing nothing? That's fine, right? We scroll TikTok all the time and spend 30 minutes plus on it when we could do something else. So, great deal, right? Very simple, very elegant, and, you know, no cost. What do we think about this? I have some people thinking it's agreeing. I saw some of the principals nodding, yeah. Some of the special guests, yeah, thinking this is a good thing, right? Finally, I can get rid of my job and go to some tropical island to spend my day there. I can see some people fidgeting. Some of the audience in the back is already eyes checking with me. Come on, high school boy, I believe you can do this. Make me rich. But, could I though? Is this the means to get rich? Or is this another scam? And the answer is, it's a scam. But this time, less direct than the other times. Well, why? Well, I could just throw a little clause in our user agreement in the app that says, user agrees to Richard Liu collecting all his data. And boom, scam calls 24/7 to ask for an extended car warranty. Now, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg knows all your work gossips. That's essentially what happened here. But it's further than, you know, like leaking your personal information on the internet. It's more than that. Because this also demonstrates, you know, a fault in a wall that is critical thinking. That this little scam was able to slip past through the judgment of some of us, and in fact, some of the teachers that actually taught me how to critically think. That means something important, doesn't it? Well, if there's this crack in the wall of critical thinking, does that mean there's more cracks? And that will be exactly so. If you look around the world, right, we see trends, and flat earthing is one of the trends among them. Basically proposes that the earth is a sheet, and the sun is a solar system that surrounds it. That idea is not some nonsense from the 1980s or some outworn slang back in the 1990s. No, that's a 1400s event. That's when people didn't know what toilets are. And that's when scientists didn't know what showers do. And people still believe in that as science. So that means there's a lot more faults to our critical thinking than just this business scam that I presented to some of you guys. Well, that is the problem at hand. That if the agency in which it guarantees us individuality and a functional community is at danger, perhaps not as much as danger as people jumping down from airplanes trying to catch cows, but 40%, even 30% of unexamined information and beliefs is a dangerous threshold just to any society and individual. So, this brings us to my third and final business proposition. Critical thinking of critical thinking. The examination of the process in which we examine and the analysis of the means in which we analyze. This is what I truly want to tell you guys today. So what is this? Let's go back to our past scam, the example, the little interaction, for a lively demonstration. First thing is, let's look back to our entire thought process. We see this and we analyze and we think, oh, that's probably good. And then we fail. What happens? Through a little introspection on my end, I can see that it's probably desire. Some of us really, really want that money. And because we really want that money, we have a belief that we want this business proposition to be true. And because we want it to be true, we will automatically reject information that contradicts it. And therefore, suppressing our critical thinking, much like having a long sword, fancy sword in a self-defense scenario. A thug comes up to you, hey, give me all your money, man, with a little dagger. But you got a long sword and it takes millions of years to draw. And in this case, you can't draw it. Your critical thinking is just like that sword, and your desire is just like that man threatening you with a little dagger, preventing you from drawing the sword. And this is exactly what happens with other cases too, but perhaps not with desire. For example, it could be a hidden curriculum taught at your schools or workplaces. For example, it could also be just a force of habit, or just an inadequacy in your thinking pattern that you haven't noticed. And this is exactly what we need to identify with the critical thinking of critical thinking. Because once we examine the faults within our unconscious and the faults within our desire, within our hidden curriculums, and within our beliefs, we bring them to light, we recognize them. And there's precisely this fact of recognition that brings this whole thing to a new level. That we construct a wall behind critical thinking that wards off all the scams and stuff. Just like with my example, if I knew that I was trying to skew my thinking because of my desire for money, I eventually will say that, hey, I considered it. Then perhaps it's time to move on. Just think, hey, I recognized it, then probably I should examine this more. Maybe I should get a second advice. And it's exactly like that we should start thinking about critical thinking. Get a metacognition of how we think. And yes, that is my speech. But before that, I'd like to leave you guys with another quote about critical thinking by another burgeoning young star in the realm of philosophy, also known as me. True thinking is not only to think about other things, but to think about thinking itself. Thank you very much.